Hey, I'm going to just jump straight into this app, but there was some good questions that I wanted to go over before this, and I'll try to highlight these as we get to it in the actual application. But going over auto-wired, one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many, and then these mapped by annotations. So I have a little slide right after this that I'm going to kind of go over some of this. So I'll try to do that. So for the many binding example, they did, and I briefly mentioned this, but I'll actually explain it a little better this time. If you do a set tags, but actually set all of the tags, so this thing right here would not work, and that's because why doesn't it? There it is. Because of this add, you're not actually setting the tags. So it needs a set tags that actually sets the whole entire object. So this wouldn't quite work, but if you did set tags and then you actually said like, instead of add, you would say this tags equals tags and put all the tags in there, that would work. So that's what I'm gonna do for this app today. And then if I did that, yeah, the whole reason we use this DTO is to kind of manipulate things. And I wouldn't have to manipulate it that way. So to explain these a little bit better, I created these three different classes. So we're going to have a user class, a tag class, and a post class. So this is the code. I'll come back and reference this in a little bit. But to best explain kind of how this works, we have our users, we have our posts, and we have our tags. And the first thing I need to do is actually create examples. So I got 2 users here, 3 posts, and 2 different tags here. And I need to kind of map them together. What's the relationship? And I put users on one side and tags clear on the other because there is no relationship there. I'm looking at the relationship between the users and posts and the posts and the tags. So with the users, if I have a user, definitely a user posts something, but that same user can actually post multiple things. So it goes that way. And then this user can post this one. That makes logical sense there. It doesn't really matter who posts it, but one user can post multiple times. On the other hand, I don't think one post can have 2 users that post the same post. So for me, this is what we would call a one-to-many relationship. And then if you go backwards, it's a many-to-one relationship. So that's the relationship here. On the post, the tags, though, I could have this post have this tag and this same post have this tag. That's possible. I can have multiple tags. And this one can have this one, and this one can have this one. But if you see here, this one tag can also have 2 different posts that it can have. So that's why this is a many-to-many, because technically a many-to-many, by definition, is actually a one-to-many going one way and a one-to-many going the other way. I don't know if this helps you think about that, but this is how like the computer kind of handles some of that. Is if you have one post that can handle multiple tags, that's this top one. And if I can have one tag having multiple posts relation to it, then that's a one-to-many this way. If you have a one-to-many both ways, it's a many-to-many relation. So then the question is, when we're talking about annotations and which one, how they relate, you have to relate them with what we call owner, the one that owns the relationship. And then the other one is I think by the vocabulary they use is inverse. So there's the owner of the relationship, and then the inverse. So really, let's focus on the owner. Even though Philip can own 2 posts, because whenever we think about owning, we think about like ownership as a materialistic, and that's not how this works. If I had to attach these together, could Philip be a standalone object with no posts? And that is true. I can be an owner, a user. I can be a user without posting anything, but can a post exist without a user, and that's where we say no. So I am actually going to live on the post table. Now, how this also helps me is if I have my user table, and if you're thinking about tables, like Excel sheet tables, so picture in your mind, and you have my name here, I'm just going to abbreviate P. This is my user, and these are my posts, right? You are not supposed to have a singleton with multiples, if that makes sense. Like I'm putting multiple posts in the same row. That's not, you can't do that. So then the best way to write that is I would write myself with one post. I'd write myself again with another post, and I'd write myself with another post, and each have them individually. But that's not very efficient either, because do you see how me as if I'm talking about the user table, my post should have nothing to do with me as a user. So that's why on the user table should not include posts. The user table is just user table. So the posts are actually going to be the owner of the relationship because they depend on it more. So because the posts, that's going to be the owner. And to be honest, if you really think about the table, then I'm going to try to, if I think about the post table, so here's my post numbers, and here's my users that do that. No matter what, I have to have post 1, 2, and 3, no matter what. So I have to have 3 items in there. And then I'm not going to have to create multiple users. This could be user 1, and user 2. And it's not going to eat up any more lines. Rather than if I did the same thing on the user, remember, I'd have to have myself twice. Do you see how there's no duplicated information with this table? There's no duplicated anything. Where right here, do you see how my duplication, which is my primary key, my duplication here happens on this left side. So that's not okay. So the posts actually own the relationship between users and posts. So hopefully that makes just a little bit of sense, and I'll show the code here in a second to show you how that's mapped. With tags, though, because we have a many-to-many, remember we have a one-to-many and a many-to-one. We have both of them there. So therefore, you're going to set up the many-to-many relation. But it really doesn't matter. Technically, it really doesn't matter which one is the owner of the relationship with many-to-many. You could do either way, and code-wise, it will work out fine. When you're talking about searchability and performance, I do think that there's a little bit better if you decide who's the owner. And for me, to be honest, I can't remember how I coded this, but for me, I would want tags to match up with posts and tags to be the owner. But let's see how but it really doesn't matter with many-to-many. So when we go here, the main one I'm showing you is user to post. So I'm going this way right here. User to post. The map is right here. And just ignore the cascade and all that kind of stuff. We're doing this one-to-many mapped by user. And then this one is going to be the user column. So it's this one right here. A couple things to note. This join column is optional. So I'm just going to scroll through it. You don't have to have that. By default, it does this for you. So you don't need that. But oftentimes, it's just more readable as code. So I'm going to scratch through it, only saying it isn't that you shouldn't need it as much as you don't need it. So I could set up a one-to-many and a many-to-one relation. And so here's your context there. Because this is a one-to-many and this is the owner, that's all I need. I don't need to map it. And it's because when I create a post, it is going to ask which user posted it, and it's going to create the foreign key and the column on this table. So I don't need to say anything. It's going to look at the user. It's going to go over here to user. It's going to find the ID, and it's going to throw that in there automatically for me. So this one, I don't have to map anything, because when I say it's a many-to-one with a user, it's going to instantly create this column and join it all together using this. On the other hand, on the user, it's not going to create a column. So on the user, if I want to use the user to look up something, it's best to use this mapped by so that you know what it is. Now it knows based on the type, this post here, that it knows that it's this class. Like these things relate the class together, so they know what each other are. And then what you have to do is you say, well, how is it mapped? And it's mapped by this user right here. So this ties these two together. And again, the mapped by is on what they call the inverse side, because I want the user link to live on the post table as a foreign key. This one, I don't want it. I don't want the post IDs to live on the user. So I'm going to have to actually tell it, hey, map it by this, because it's not going to be in the table. When you do a many-to-many, to be honest, you just have to pick one of them. It really doesn't matter. One of these has to have a mapped by and the other one doesn't. I think technically you can actually map both of them. I haven't really tried that out, but the many-to-many is a little bit more flexible, because the many-to-many by default, it is going to do this exact join table for you. Again, it's just like the join column. You do not have to write this out. Spring is smart enough to write this out for you. So you just need, if you don't do the join table, it will create a join table for you, and it'll see many-to-many with tags. And then this will say many-to-many with posts, and it'll say, oh, I need to create a table, a join table with those two together in it. And it'll do it for you. So again, I'm going to scratch this out, not because I wouldn't want you to do it, as much as you don't need it when you do it. Answer some questions, and then I think we'll move on to the app. Question was, so the owner table doesn't store the inverse. No, the owner table stores the foreign key. The inverse table does not. So on this one, the post, oh, I do have another. Did I put it on here? Hold it. Let me see. I don't think I did. No, I didn't. I was looking up the actual SQL commands that would be created by these, but that I know what they are because I was looking them up. Yes, the post table would actually have the user ID on the post table. So this would be a foreign key. So this would be the owner of the relation. The map by is the one that does not have the foreign key on it. That's why you have to say mapped by. Yes, when you do any type of data mapping like this, these should be thought out ahead of time. Now, the good news is if it doesn't work out the way you want, we know how to use that create, and we know how to drop tables, redo it, and then put the information in there again. So as long as you're okay with dropping your tables, you can rearrange them. If you're talking about typing out this join table, I by default like to at least see this. This is the table name, and these are the two join columns that are together. So I don't know. No, the user's not the owner. The many-to-one. I know for post and user, because those are the ones that are more. This many-to-many, the many-to-many does not have foreign keys in it. The many-to-many creates a join table that has both foreign keys in it and maps them that way. When you do the many-to-one and one-to-many, the many-to-one is the one that creates the foreign key. This has the foreign key. And that foreign key column is that name. That's why I like having this join column name there. If you don't put it there, it'll default to whatever this data type is. So it'd be user underscore ID. And it's always ID because it looks at the ID up here. Yeah. Yeah, the many-to-one is the owner. And again, with many-to-many, that's why it helped me to think of many-to-many as actually a one-to-many and a one-to-many each way. So it really doesn't matter who the owner is. You just got to kind of pick one. But actually, if you do many-to-many and don't do this join table, you don't even have to think about owner. You just code it. So you can just put many-to-many and many-to-many, and it'll work. But one of them does have to have mapped by. I think today's the 6th. Yeah. So technically graded assignment 3 is due, and then you should be working on graded assignment 4. I think the only question, again, I took off Discord because I sometimes go through there and look, but yeah, if you have any table concerns, like something isn't writing right to the table, I would just drop all your tables, and that usually fixes a lot of your issues, especially when you're changing the models. So, okay. We're gonna create a fitness tracker. Hopefully I have enough time. I'll have enough time to eventually get it done, but first thing I'm gonna do, some of this, because I've already done it before, I'm gonna go a little fast. The problem is I have a fitness tracker on my computer right now because I just made it. So I'm gonna call this I guess I could just put a 1 at the end of it. Most of these are default dependencies. Because this is a web application, I need to bring in Spring Web. Because I'm using Timeleaf, I need to, oh, I don't know what I clicked there. I need to bring in Timeleaf. Because I'm using a database, I need to use Spring Data. Because I'm using a MySQL database, I need to bring in MySQL. Is there anything else? I'm gonna get my cheat sheet over on the side. I closed down out of my IntelliJ because it was eating up too much RAM. So this is gonna be my cheat sheet off to my side here. What other dependencies? Oh, validation. I always forget this one. If you actually want to do validation, you have to bring in this validation one. So those are the main ones there. So I'm going to hit generate. It's going to give me a zip drive. I'm going to open it up. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to go into my LaunchCode folder. This will be nice, fun project. I'm going to put it right here. My fitness tracker 1, and then I'm going to open it up with IntelliJ. This thing is going to take a little bit. So while this is doing all the indexing, I'm going to go over to my SQL database and set up a schema for it. So my schema is going to be fitness. I know this is hard to see, but you can just trust me. I'm going to say fitness tracker 1. I'm going to hit apply. I need a user that can only view this schema. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to hit add account. I'm going to say fitness tracker 1 user. For my password, I'm going to say fitness 1 tracker password. I'm going to add schema privileges. I'm going to add a schema, which is the fitness tracker 1. And then I have to, I'm going to select all, and I'm going to hit apply.
Hey, Philip, I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you went to which schema you wanted to provide permission for, can you do all?
So here's the problem with all from a security standpoint. From a security standpoint, if somebody hacks my box, then they can delete all the data from all of my databases. So generically, you need to only select one schema, and that's just like for your testing and for your stuff, you know, it's not going to hurt anything. But if you go to a company and you're not thinking about security with databases, you could get in a lot of trouble. So
yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I think that's there. So my app should be kind of ready to go. So I'll go back. First thing I want to do is put the properties in. So I'm going to go to main, resources, application properties. I'm going to make this a little bigger for you guys. And I'm going to paste that right there so I have it for future use. I'm going to go to another project. This is what all of you probably should do. You're going to copy and paste. From another project. You can see I'm real created with the user and password there. But I think this should be good. And at this point, I should be able to run this thing and it hook up to my database. In the MySQL stuff, so it depends on your application. So whenever you guys talk about, if I have multiple services hooking into my database, there might be a reason that I might create a user that only, that I only want read access, like I only want them to be able to read, which means I can do select statements. So these are all customizable to what you're doing. The fastest to get you guys at least used to security is understanding that it should only go to one database and not multiple. And then after that, just knowing that these are changeable. You usually do have an kind of more or less a service admin or an application admin that does everything. So that's what we've created. But you could have different users for different applications, depending on how they need to hook up. All right, this thing says it started. It says this Hikari pool, that's the thing that connects to your database. So if this says start completed, then I know that it is connected to my database. So I don't need this right now. So the first thing I want to do anytime I make an app is I want to get the structure right. So I'm going to go ahead and add a package, and it's going to be models. I'm going to add another package. And this is going to be controllers. And then I'm going to add another package called repositories. Right. So these are the three that you typically do in an API. So we're going to keep that. The first thing I want to do is I need to get something working. Well, so the first thing I'm going to do is get a class. This is going to be my like home controller. And this will just controller. Controller. This will just be at home, so I don't have to put any mapping or anything on there. So this is going to be at get mapping. Just whenever they hit the home page, I want a public. Remember, anything with time leaf is going to return a string. Technically, it's going to be HTML eventually. And this is just going to be my home. And I'm going to return home. Well, what does that mean? If I run this right now and I go to the home, actually, I'm going to do that just so you guys can see that. If I start this up right here and I go to my web page as it is right now, it's just gonna give me an error. It doesn't even know what's going on here. Yeah, some of you were having a problem where it was returning this actual home. I think that's if you do a what I'm going to do is make sure that it actually hits a template. That's what I wanted to do. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to create a time leaf template. I'm going to call it home. It's going to be home.html. And then in the body right here, I'm going to create like an H2 tag that says, welcome to the fitness tracker. It does need a template to be able to show HTML. I know that some people were having a concern where it was actually showing the string, and I was hoping to potentially show that off. But here, now that it's here, it definitely has an HTML template. It knows what it's doing here, so it's good. So I would always encourage you, before you get too far into the app, actually create something that works. No matter how minor it is, just get it to work. So then I'll map out what I want here. To be honest, let's get some writing room here. Just so you guys kind of see this. What I want to do is I want to have a user. And a user is like my login. It's going to have my email and password. I'm not going to do passwords this time. I'm going to show you how to implement that later. But it's going to have an email and a username and email. And then my profile. My profile is going to be about me, personal information. Let's do like age, weight, height. Because I'm working out, I want to track some of my BMI information. And then whenever I actually work out, we're going to call those activities. So I'm going to have an activity, and I'm going to have multiple activities in my profile. Like I'm going to go running, I'm going to go swimming and biking and yoga and all those kind of things. And then I want to be able to tag different activities. So to relate these, every one user is going to have one profile. So it's going to be a one-to-one relation there. Every one profile can actually map to multiple activities. So just like we talked about before, my activity is going to have my many to one, and that's going to have my foreign key on it. But my profile is just going to be my profile with no foreign keys, but I'm going to have to force it by doing the map by to be able to map the activities. And then the tags and the activities, that's going to be a multiple or many to many, because I can share tags across things. I can have multiple activities that have the same tag. So that's what I'm setting up right there. Let's go ahead and do it kind of in this order. I'm going to do the user, then the profile, then the activity, and then the tag. So hopefully that makes sense. Right. So first thing I like to do is I like to create a model. I'm going to actually create all 4 models. I will change them throughout, but I'm going to have a user model. I'm going to have a profile model. And again, I'm leaving these kind of blank for a second. Activity model. And a tag model. Right.
Yeah.
So the one I'm going to focus on right now is the I'm going to focus on the user one. The user is going to have obviously it's going to be an entity because I don't want to have to deal with the SQL to run it. I want it to do it by itself. I'm going to have an @ID. I'm going to have an @auto generate, not an auto generate. I'm going to have a generated value. And then this is going to be a private. You can do int. I've just always seen longs. They're a little bit bigger. It provides for a little bit more room for the IDs. And then, like I said, we're going to have a private string username. And we're going to have a private string email. Those are the main ones here. And then we are going to have a one-to-one with a private profile. Since this is only one of them, I do have to choose where the foreign key is going to live. The user should be able to exist by itself. It's once I create the profile, I need to attach the profile to a user. So the profile is actually going to own the relationship and have the foreign key. And because of that, this is the one that I have to do the mapped by. And then I'm just going to, you get to name this however you want. And if you see here, it cannot find the inverse attribute. So I have not created a user property on my profile, and it can see that for me because it's looking inside profile and it says there's no user here. I can't do anything with this. That's why it's red there. So I'm going to say, okay, well, let's go ahead and set up the profile. Obviously going to make it an entity. I'm going to have the ID. I'm going to have the generated value, private, long ID. I'm going to do, let's do a first name, last name. What else? Just for personal things that they usually ask for, stuff, age. Now it is going to be a number just to show you something different. I'm going to do it as a double. But to calculate BMI, which I'm not doing in this app, but I could, you want your weight and your height. And then I also need to join that back to the user. So this is going to be a 1-to-1. I don't need to do the map by here. Private user. I think that should be good. If you look here, now it's green because I put in the user. These also need to do activities. So I want to do a 1-to-many. And again, this should be the standalone one. So I'm going to have to do the map by on this side. And I'm just going to call it profile on the other side. It's kind of easy to remember that. Private. Now, because I don't want my activities, I can do an array list or a list here. But since I don't want any activities to be duplicated, I like to do sets for these. It forces the non-duplication. Again, I'm fine if it's not a set. If you did a list of some sort, that would be perfectly fine there. But now it wants me to set up the activity to match this. So let's go ahead and do set activity. So with activity, not usage, I got to do the at entity. I got to do the at ID, at generated value, private, long ID. Okay, so let's keep it to just like 3 or 4 things here. Let's do a private double duration. So how long was my activity or workout? I will also, if I can calculate it, I'm going to do my calories burned. Let's see if I can track that. I need to link it back up to my profile. So that'd be a private profile. And do you see how the profile had a set? That's how I know it's a many. So a set is this one profile goes to many activities, where this one is just a singular profile. But I do have to annotate it, right? So this is going to be an at many to 1. Right. And then I am going to say that you can put tags on this thing, but that's going to be a many to many with tags. So private, again, I don't want to allow duplicate tags. I don't want a tag to be listed on there twice. Oh, no. Let me finish it up. It's not giving me the there we go. Import class. It wasn't allowing me to import for a second there. Yeah, the difference between set and a set is unordered, but it does not allow duplicates, where a list is an ordered list. So if I had, Philip, a list would allow all 3, where a set would only allow 1. So it's I'll do that. Hold on, I'll do that for you. Here we go. Hopefully that helps. Like a tag is like a hashtag, like good workout, whatever I want to tag it with. Let's do tag. And again, let's say that I wasn't as structured as I am right now. Like whenever you guys create your projects here in a couple weeks, you don't have to know everything. You can start with different things. Just know that whenever you add or subtract from an entity, it will change your database structure. And if you guys are at a point where it's okay to just drop all the data in your database, that's fine. That you can do whatever you want to here. Just know that you'll have to drop your database often when you do that. I think some people get stuck where it's like, well, I already created it. I don't want to have to do it again. Did I do the mapped by on this side? I did not do the map by on this side, so I'm going to do it on this side. And I think I called it tags. Yeah, it has to be this name, whatever that name is, has to be right there. And again, I don't want to duplicate any activity. Should only be in there once. Oh, I think I got all the attributes that I want there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to just auto generate code. Because if you mess up with any of this, you know, the generation of it, I'm going to select the none. And then I'm going to select to generate all the getters and setters. Again, you probably don't want to allow the setting of an ID. But so that I can just go through here fast, I'm just going to do it. Generate constructor none. Generate setter and getters on all. Thank goodness for this autocomplete, this generated code. But so I have those now. The next easiest thing is to make my repositories. Remember, these are going to be interfaces, and it'd be activity repository. I'm going to copy this so I can just paste it at the end of all the other ones. And you just have to do two things. You're going to say, hey, this is going to be a repository. So Spring, do your magic. And then you're going to do, it extends. Yes. Extends. And I'm going to do the JPA one. Again, you can do the CRUD one if you want to. And then because this is my activity, I need to bring in the activity with an integer. And that's all I need to do. And then I'm going to do this a couple more times. Another one's going to be the profile repository interface at repository extends JPA repository profile integer tag repository yeah, you're right. Let's do longs. These should match long, and I don't know why I put an S there. And then last one is user. Oh, not user long. As you can tell, coding is super fun sometimes. All right. From my repositories. Now comes the fun part with the controllers. So the first thing that I'm going to do is create a, I'm going to go in the same order. I want the person to create a user first. So I'm going to set the user controller to do, I think, all CRUD operations. So the user controller, needs to be a controller. And then because I am going to map it, I'm going to do a request mapping. And let's go ahead and make this users like that. And then if I'm going to do CRUD operations on the users, I need to do the @AutoWire. What this does is, instead of me doing, instead of me doing, so if you do this, it never gets like set up, like initialized. So I could make a blank controller that just says, like this, user repository equals new user repository, something like this. But you see, I don't even know. See, it brings in all of this stuff that I got to worry about. Nope, don't want to do that. That is the power of doing this. This just set up that whenever I use a controller, whenever I set up a user controller, it auto wires all that stuff that it tried to bring in for me, so I don't have to worry about it. So you auto wire it in. Okay, so just like whenever they go to the users, it should display the users. That should be the first one. So I'm going to do a get mapping, just a blank one. I'm going to call this public string get all users. This one's going to show all the users. What's going on? All right, get all users. And then I'm going to return, and I haven't made this yet, but it's going to be in the user folder, and it's just going to list all the users. That's what I'm going to call my template. And then to get all my users, I got to do the model, and then I got to do model dot add attribute users. And then I'm going to use that user repository and do the find all. So we've done this before. It's going to go to the user repository. It's going to find all the users. It's going to put them in the users variable and have the user list. And of course, that's super important to get going. The problem is if I don't have any users in my user list, that's not going to show anything. So I'm going to go ahead and start creating the next thing, which is the get mapping, creating a new user. So if I want to create a new user, I'm going to do the public string show new user form. That's what I'm just calling the method. I have to do a model. model. This one's going to do another model attribute. And I'm going to say model, not model, user. And then that's a new user. Yep. New user. And then I'm going to return a new form that's going to be in the user folder, and it's going to be my form. So I'm getting real creative with the names there. So I'm going to have a list for all the users, and then I'm going to have a form to create new users. And then I have to have an action item, a post method to do this. So I'm going to do public string save user, because that's what the action that I'm doing. I want to do the model attribute. And I don't have to put exactly what it is, but it's going to be the user. I'm going to validate it. Even though I haven't done any, I'll put this later. But it's going to be a user called user. And then I have to have, I guess, for the first round, I think that's fine. I'll do my error handling later. I'm going to assume that everything's good. And if everything's good, I'm going to call my user repository and do .save. And I'm going to save that user into my user repository and then return a redirect to users. I think that's right. All right. I think this controls all the workflow. If I go to just the normal get mapping, it gets me all the users. If I hit the new button, which I haven't created yet, it'll throw in a new user for me to go to a form, and then it'll post to here. It'll save the user and redirect to the users to then show the users. So I think that's everything I absolutely need to at least get started with the users. So then I'm going to do a time leaf. I'm going to do a folder. And this is going to be called user, because that's what I called it up here, is user/form. And then I'm going to create two folders. I'm going to have a list, and I'm going to have a form. Now here's where the HTML, again, you're going to have to kind of bear with me here. I'm going to do some basic stuff just so you guys see it. But then I'm going to probably go into a little bit more complicated things. So the first thing I'm going to do is in the body, I'm going to do like an H2 and say users. This is in the list. That's where I'm at here, the list. And so then I want to list it. So that means a list would be like a table. I'm going to create a table. I'm going to have a T head. The head's going to have table rows, and the table rows are going to have table heads in them. And this is going to be the ID. And then, even though I don't have to display the ID, I could probably take that out later, username and email. And then after the head of it, I want to do the body. And inside the body, I want to do these same things. So I'm going to have a table row, or table row. I'm going to have these things here. The difference is I need to populate these with the actual users. So that's whenever I do the th each. User in users, which, because that's a variable, I got to do the $sign thing, and I passed it in as users. I'm just going to double check that. So I passed this in as users, the model attribute. So I did that right. And then with these are the default ones. So you can leave them there if you want to, but you don't need them. but this is going to be the th text. So that's what's going to override that, and that's going to be the user.id. And that's going to do the dot or the get ID from the user right there. So I'm going to copy and paste this. And instead of ID, this is going to be username. And instead of ID, this is going to be email. Right. That's the th each. Yep. Curly braces. Oh, here, yes. Syntax is important. Right. So I can list them even though I don't have them. I do have a URL that I have to type in saying /new to get to this form. Oh, I got to do the form. That would be very helpful. So here now I got to have a form for my user. So H2, just a title again that says, I don't know, add new user. We will definitely not have time for all this. Add new user, then a form. The form is going to have a th action. Now that I'm really thinking about it, this is what I found whenever I was doing it from my previous stuff, but I don't know if they actually, I think they probably just did this. I think. Actually, I'm going to put it the way I have it because I know it works. That's going to be the action, the th object. This is defining the object that you want to do, to handle, which is going to be the user, the new user. And then I do have to say method post. All right, so I have a form. I'm going to format this a little. Did it really not format that? I want to have an input. I'm hopefully going to be able to copy and paste a lot of this. Actually, I don't think I need that. I need that for my next step. Okay, so I'll leave that for now. I need a div and then an input. And this input's going to be type is going to be text, ID. It's going to be username. The field. So I could hard code this and do like user.username. What I've seen in other things that I have researched is this like wildcard type thing, and this just grabs this says whatever this thing is up here, just put it down, and then this is the field name. I kind of like this way. Username and email. Yeah, an asterisk, like a shift 8. And then I do need a button. Button type submit. We'll see if I have messed up any of this. Anybody else thinking I'm missing anything yet? So yeah, this is just a different way to do it. So I'll make this a little bit bigger. I could do user.username here. I could do this because I'm doing the object. Then I can just do, hey, do this. This is an object and do it to this property of the object. There's just slightly different ways to do it. All right, so let's rerun this. Let's see how bad I messed up. So my homepage still works. When I go to users, it tries to give me a table. And then whenever I do new, it says add new user. The labels didn't. Oh, I didn't put labels on this. I need to put labels on it. The first one was username. The next one was email. I hit save and it tells, okay, so that worked. It worked. I do want to put labels. I'm going to do a label. I forgot the other way I did this. If I think I could put the label and the input in the same label. Instead of doing this for, I'm just gonna rerun this. All right. Users work. Let's do profile, new directory, profile. And to be honest, I'm just going to copy these. I'm going to paste them in here. So now I have form and list here. My user controller. Why don't I just go ahead and duplicate this thing too? Profile controller. And let's see what we need to change. So this, instead of users, is going to be profile. Because there are multiple profiles, I'm going to go ahead and put an S to match my cheat sheet. The first thing I need to auto wire in is my profile repository. Because I do want to link my profile with my user, I do need to bring in the user profile, the user repository to link the two. So whenever I get all, I'm going to get all profiles. This is going to be profiles. And this is going to be profile repository.find all. And this is going to be profile. Did I name that? Yeah, the folder I did singular. Just watch out for those things because I mess up on those all the time. The get mapping, new, show new profile form, profile, new profile, profile. hopefully you guys realize that whenever you do CRUD operations, once you start doing it to one, it's just copy and paste for the others. Save profile. It's going to be profile, 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 profile. Redirect profiles. All right. I think the controller is kind of good. Let's go to the actual. I'm gonna close all of these. Getting a little busy. Not the repository, the template. So the list of profiles. The first thing I need to do is this is profiles, and then I need to make sure I have all of the profile attributes. So I am going to copy and paste so that I don't bore you too much. Here are all the things that we said we were going to do. And this is the username of the user. I can just do user if I want to. And then I'm going to do for each profile in profiles. To be honest, I'm going to copy and paste this other stuff too. There we go. And these are like default things that just to make sure I know kind of what I should be putting in there. I think that makes sense. Wage. Okay. Yes. All right. Oh, I need to bring in users right here. Oh, this isn't the users. This is the list. Yes, it'll say the username of the user right here. So I think my list is probably good. It's my form that needs to get a little bit more worked on. For this one, add new thing. This is going to go. I think it's with an S there. That's not with an S. Post. Okay, so here's where I need to do the labels. What's the fastest way to do this? I guess there is not a fast way to do this. So the first one's going to be, I'm not going to do ID, so I'm going to do first name. There we go. The next one's going to be last name. I need to do this 1, 2, 3, 4, technically 4 more times. So I'll do 2, 4. There we go. The age and the weight should be pretty easy. First name, last name, age. Now age is going to be a number. So I want that to be a number. It's going to be age. What's my other one? Weight. Weight is also going to be a number. Hopefully you guys are kind of thinking through like, what is he going to do next? That's usually what you should be doing is like, either what is he doing? But for those of you that are bored and are like, this seems pretty simple, always try to think ahead on what I should be doing, because right here is where we get the interesting part. I want them to tie a profile in with this, with a user with this profile. So whenever I do this one, I'm going to have to do something special. So I definitely am going to do the user for the user field, right? But it isn't going to be a normal input. It's actually going to be a select statement. So I'm not going to do a normal input. I'm going to, oh, no. Yes, user. This thing here is going to be a select. And I need to end the select. Oh. Inside the select, I need some options. Well, to be able to have options, I need to do that. Well, first of all, I got to fill out the field. Where do I want this thing mapped to? And that's the user. Yeah, so all of those match. And then option. And there's going to be multiple options. So this is where I'm going to do the th each. And I don't know if I did it in the controller. Did I do it in the controller? I did not. We'll go back to the controller here in a second because I need to pass in all the users that are possible for this. So I'm going to do for each user in users. For each user in users. The value that I want to send back is the ID. This is the value. I'm going to make this a little bigger for us here. The value is what's going to get stored in my database. I don't want the username stored in the database. I want the ID stored in the database. But the user doesn't want the user ID because they don't know what their user ID is. So they want the text of this option to be the user.username because they'll know what their username is. And again, this is just a default thing. You technically don't have to have that in there because this th text will override it. And then I think, did I set it to the right place? Profiles. All right, this might work. But again, I have not passed in these users yet. So I need to go back to my controller of my profile and say, whenever I do a new one, I also need to pass in that, and it's not going to be a new profile. This is where we're going to use the user repositories and do the find all. So we're going to find all the users, put them in here. Whenever they get to this select option, it should throw in the users. So let me rerun this and see what breaks. Okay, so my users are still there, but I want profiles. I don't have any profiles, so I want to create a new one. Okay. If you guys ever notice, this has like a 0, but this has a 0, 0. I don't know if you remember whenever we set the profile, we set the age to be an int, that's why it's a 0, and then the weight to be a double, that's why it's a 0.0. So it kind of detects that for us, which I think is kind of crazy. And then if you see here, it actually provides all the users available, so I can tie it to the profile. There we go. So profiles, I didn't get any errors. And it tells me my username here, not my ID. So I like that. I think the next thing to probably do, I want to go back and forth between all of these things. So let's do a real quick update with a with a fragment. I don't know why it took me so long to think of that word. Because you can do multiple fragments, you can do it that way. I think I want to just do a header one, just like we've done before. So I'm going to do a header fragment. I am going to kind of copy and paste from before. I will tell you kind of what I'm doing here, but I'm just going to start copy and pasting a little bit to go a little quicker. So I said that this is a fitness tracker. I'm bringing in Bootstrap right here. We have done this before, so I'm bringing in Bootstrap. I'm allowing me to bring in a CSS style sheet if I so choose. I probably won't. And then the header has this fitness tracker application, and it has these links now. Now it's going to have the links to the user, profiles, activities, and tags. We've set those up before. The class, remember, is your Bootstrap stuff, so it's just going to format it for me. So those are going to be links. And I did it just like they did, where I have the fragment of the head being the head, like the head tag, and then the header being the header tag. So I actually have to bring in both of these to my different forms. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste these. Why do I have a body? Hold on. All right. So I'm going to copy and paste that into that. I'm going to go right here and copy and paste it into right here. I'm going to copy and paste it into right here. I'm going to copy and paste it into right here. All right. I'm going to rerun this and see what it looks like. My goal with this exercise is at some point, instead of recreating the whole entire backend for my application, I want to show you how to hook this up to a React application and what that looks like to just change it. So. Okay. So now whenever I refresh, I didn't put it in my homepage, but we'll see it in there. Oh, it looks so much, well, not so much. It looks better. So when I go to users, it has some styling there. The other thing is I don't have a button to add users or add profiles yet. So I'm going to copy and paste that in as well. First of all, I'm going to go back to my home and copy and paste those that header again in there. Inside the list, I want to go to the form. So I'm going to create a button. And to be honest, I'm not going to create a button. I'm actually going to do something crazy. I'm just going to, because of time, I'm going to copy and paste a lot. I will explain a little bit of what I'm doing here. I didn't do the footer. Okay, so remember, this is the user list. Here's my table again that has my ID, username, email. I will talk about these actions in just a second, but all I did was the table, I put these classes in here. And what I also did was I made this submit button that allows me to add a new user. So I will explain, well, I've already made this endpoint of user/new. I've used it, I've typed it in manually. All I did was I created a form with a button that has an action of going to there. And that's so that I can wrap it with a whole bunch of Bootstrap stuff. And then with my actions, what I'm going to try to do now is do the full CRUD. So I can create, I can read, but right now I don't have update and delete there. So I'm creating buttons to be able to update and delete. So that's what I'm doing right here is in the actions. So I'm going to go ahead and add these in. And again, here's my table headers. And here's my for each. It looks identical to what it was before, except I added the same exact buttons. I added an edit button and a delete button, and I added a button to do an add a new profile. So I'm going to restart this and just focus on those two things. So I'm going to go to my home page, and hopefully it looks okay. It says welcome to Finish Tracker. Okay, so then I have users, and now this is what Bootstrap can do for you. I mean, I don't have to code it. I just pull in Bootstrap. I Google the classes, like what does table striped mean? What does table bordered mean? So table striped, here's a darker and a lighter. It has a border, those kind of things. The buttons, this yellow button is a button warning is a yellow button. A button danger is a red button. A button primary is this blue button. So I'm just bringing in the styling from Bootstrap. And so that's all this is. I've coded this, but I have not coded these yet. So we're going to do those here in a second. But here's that same exact form there. I can do that and hit save. Same thing with profiles. All I did was put these buttons in and make it look prettier. But let's do the edit and the delete. Well, let's do the delete first. So for me to delete a user, we know how to, eventually I want to do something similar to this, where I want to do user repository dot delete. That's what I want to do, but I got to get there first. There's a couple different ways I can do it. I'm actually going to do a Git mapping, but the way I'm going to do my Git mapping is I'm going to say go to the delete, and I need you to pass me in the ID that you want to delete. So that's what I'm doing there. So then I would do public string delete. I'm in the user, yes, user controller, user. And again, I'm going to copy and paste this and put it right into the other one, path variable of ID. That's what I'm grabbing. I'm grabbing the ID here. It's going to be a long, and it's going to be I'm going to name it ID. And then I'm going to do user repository dot delete. Oh, delete by ID. And that's a long, so I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to redirect to the users. So that's how I'm going to delete. It'll be delete with the ID. I pass the ID into the delete repository, and then I redirect it. That seems simple enough. Now, the only thing I do have to mention or make sure I have is this is the mapping for it, the delete one. So I do have to go to the user user list, and that button I did, if you look, it's users delete ID. So that's what I set up right here. And I said this ID needs to be the user ID. So this is how I did that. I said that it was a post method. So I need to make sure I'm doing that. The styling just means that they can be side by side rather than on top of each other. So that's just a styling. Yeah, everything else is styling. So I said, hey, go do this thing, which is the delete, here. But if you noticed, let's try this. If I go to users and I go here, I hit delete, it says that I'm an error. Bootstrap is pretty responsive. It's not amazingly responsive, but it is. I don't use it well enough to know how to do it, but I've seen people that have. I don't know if you noticed in there, I hesitated because I'm like, that doesn't seem right. But in my delete button, here, do you see how the method is post? The reason it messed up is because I had a a get there. No, the difference is with the request parameter, you actually have to pass that in. No, the path variables I think are like in the path, and you'll see those. You'll see those a lot more in things like this. If I'm passing like JSON back and forth, that's when I see the request parameters a lot more. But if I'm using like something like this where I can just do a slash whatever, that's when I use this. Users, it is refreshed. So now I'm going to try to delete Bill, and it deleted it right out. And again, that's because the mess up was I had a get mapping rather than a post mapping. So now let's do an edit. Here's how nice and easy the edit is. Instead of a post mapping, I do think for the edit, I did a get method. So I did use a get, so I need to change that. This needs to be a get mapping. And then I did code it to be edit instead of delete. So I just need to make sure I'm doing that. And then I'm going to call this edit user. The path variable is going to be the ID. I already have a form for users. So I'm going to try to figure out how can I use my form, this form up here. But the form, if I do a normal form, it doesn't know that there's a user. So I need to figure out how can I pass in a user so it knows that that's the user I'm trying to edit. But the actual form, like when I look at this form, this form is a good form if I wanted to even edit, whether I want to create or edit. I could create two separate forms, a create form and an edit form, or I don't like doing front-end development, so I'm going to make them the same. But I do have to put like a flag in there that says, hey, if I pass in a new user, do this. But if I actually pass in an actual user, display their information here, and then whenever I hit save, actually update the user. So I got to just do it slightly different. So the form right now does not include, well, no, it does include a user getting passed in. It's getting a blank user here. Do you see how it's a blank user? So I can still use this in my edits. Because I want to return a form, I do have to do the model. But I don't want to do new user. I want to do user repository dot. How did I remember? I did this a little differently than the book did. I like this one because I don't have to worry about error handling. I assume that my code's always right. So again, in a production environment, you might want to wrap this with something else, but this is the fastest way to get what you want. So I'm going to pass in a user. We already passed in a user to the same exact form. It's just this one's a blank one. This one's not a blank one. So that means whenever I go to my form, so here's my form, the user's already getting passed in. Here's an object, a user object. Here's what I'm also going to do. When it says add new user, We can do an if statement. There's two ways to do this. You can do a th if statement and do two different h2s. You guys are used to this ternary operator here in Java and JavaScript, where it says, hey, if the user ID is null, display add new user, else display edit user. So I can already do that. Because the field is already a username, and I'm passing in the user, but let's just see what this does, what it does right now. Let's see if there's any errors. That's not good. Okay. Add new user, Bill, added Bill. Let's say I wanted to edit Bill. Because I was already passing in a user and I already tied those fields to those values, whenever I hit the edit button, it just pulls it up. Ooh, good call, Trevor. Whenever I hit save here, there might be an error. Because even though it does know the user per se, when I hit the save button, the only thing that I have passed in this form is the username and email. I have not passed the ID. So whenever I hit save here, I'm actually expecting a little bit of an error. And the error didn't cause an error, it created another bill. And we don't want another bill, so I'm going to delete just extra bill. So it's because it doesn't have an ID, it uses that generate ID to create the same thing. So yeah, in code, I have to send it an ID. And I agree. I think the fastest, easiest way to do that is doing a hidden field, so I'm going to say input hidden, and the field's going to be the ID. And because it's hidden, whenever I create a new user, it's not going to show me. So it's just going to be blank, and it's going to do exactly what it's been doing before with a new user. It's just going to generate it, because if it doesn't have one, it has to generate one. But with an editable user, it will have an ID. So then it's going to pass in that ID, and then it knows that Bill is the real Bill. Here's the interesting thing about some of the code on this controller. Whenever I do save, saves a given entity. Well, that's obvious. It says saves. I thought it would say updates if it already does it. It doesn't tell me here. Whenever you save using an ID, because it can't have the same ID, it will more or less override your entry with your new entry, because you're saving right on top of what you already have. So it is perfectly fine. Instead of doing a dot update or something like that, you can do just a dot save. So I'll let that rerun. Oh, I did profile, sorry. User, here's Bill. Let's see if we can edit Bill. It did not create a second Bill there. That's because we passed in that ID, so it knew that Bill was ID 52. And so because I did the edit, and if you really wanted to know, if you go right here and you inspect element, here's an ID, and the ID is 52 right there. So it is passing that in, but you're hiding it from the user. Yeah. So hopefully that makes sense on how to do edits. And you see, I did not have to create a new form. I always love not having to create a new form. I think that's all the CRUD operations on this. So we can create new users, we can read them, because that's what this table is. We can update them, and we can delete them. So that's all the CRUD operations that you need. To do it on the profiles, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I copy and paste some. I'm actually going to copy and paste a lot. I am not going to update the any of the information on this user form here, but I am going to put a bunch of these class names. And these class names are like container MT5, that's Bootstrap. So just trust me, I'm putting Bootstrap in here. That's all I'm doing with these real quick. So same thing with this one. I keep forgetting I didn't put a footer in there. Like, so same thing with this one. I put in the hidden ID. So I didn't do anything structurally different. I just had the hidden ID. I did the, hey, if there's no profile ID, well, we need to add a profile, else we're editing a profile. So we're just doing that. I did put this. These are those errors. I probably won't get to that right now. I'm already running a little over than what I want, but the errors are there. I'm also supposed to go to orchestra rehearsal tonight. That's why I'm trying to hurry a little bit. Okay. Now, I didn't code it though. So the profile controller, we should be able to do the same thing, just copying and pasting. With the profile controller, I need to go back to the profile, not form. This is too cluttered. Close all these. I'm worried about the profile. So profile list, profile form, and profile controller. Let's get me some more real estate here. In my list, I added those buttons and I did the same thing. So it's the /delete /edit with the ID. I did the post and the get. So I really can just take my user controller right here and do the two down here, the edit and delete, and just copy and paste them over to my profile one. And change the name. So this is going to be edit and delete. When I do the delete, I'm not going to delete the user. I'm going to delete the there. So this one should work. I'm just going to read through it real quick. It's going to be a post method delete profile. I'm going to grab the ID from the path variable. I'm going to throw that ID and I'm going to delete it from the profile registry. And I'm going to redirect to the, that's why I reread this. I'm going to send that back to the profiles tab. On this thing, I'm going to do the same thing. The difference is when I do the profile /form, let's go back up here. I'm going to send in a profile, which is a new profile. So right here, I need to send in a profile that is that specific profile. And then I do need to send in a list of all the users, because if we update which user they're tied to, I need to send that information in. So the new and the edit should look almost identical because we're using the same form. The only difference is a new profile versus an already made one. So let's rerun this. So we can finally get to the activities and tags. So my profiles, users. Okay, so I'm going to add a new profile. This is going to be Bill. My user, that's going to be Bill. So I get in that. And let's say that I want to edit Bill again. It brings me back to this edit profile with all of his information. And the only thing, whenever I was doing this myself, I did forget it the first time to repass in the users. So I explained that we need to do that. Somehow he lost height in his old age. So he got updated there. So Profiles look just like the users. The only difference is in the form, you have to link the users. Okay. We have not done activities. Let's see how much I can do without copying and pasting. Activity controller. My activity controller, same type of thing. I need to have I need to set this up to be a controller. I need to set up request mapping, and I'm going to call this activities. I'm going to really copy and paste from my other one to make sure I didn't spell that wrong. So the activity, remember, the activity needs a profile. So we automatically need to bring in this activity repository and profile repository because we need to be able to link an activity to a profile, the person that worked out. Again, unfortunately, I am going to probably do a little bit of copy and paste because it's the same thing. We're going to get all activities. So activities, activity repository, find all, and the activity list. This looks identical to what I've done before. The new, create new, it's show new activity form. We're going to have a new activity. We have to pass in all the profiles, and right now I will add that later. So we're just going to do activity and profiles for right now. And then whenever we handle it, we're going to save the activity. And when we do that, again, some of this I've already set up with like errors and that kind of stuff, and valid. I'll go over that later if you want to. But really, we're just going to save the activity and redirect activities. That's what we're going to do. I think that's all that we had in the other one. But then we got to set up this template. So templates, new directory called I think I did it singular. Yes. Again, I can just copy and paste these and put them in here, and then edit them from here. Whenever I list out the activities, hold on. All right. I'm going to copy and paste a lot of this, then I'm going to go over it. Same type of thing. I have a table. I have a add activity button. This structure is identical. I just literally copied and pasted these and changed them whenever I did it. So I have a button that allows you to add a new activity, just like we did with user profiles. I have the column headers. I have all the stuff that gets thrown in. And then I have the activities edit button and the activities delete button. Identical to what I had. There's nothing new here. The only difference is, oh, I'm glad I didn't put it on there, was tags. I didn't put tags on here yet, which is good for us because I didn't put it in there yet. So here's my activities. I don't have any. So let's, ooh, that's not good. What error was that? ID cannot be found on null. That's right. Activity form. I'm going to comment that out for a second. Oh, no, it wasn't that. It was this thing here. And that's users. Hold on. Oh, that's because I copied in the wrong form. Activity form, that would help. That's still the profile, or the user. Okay, so here, let's just go through this. I have an activity ID, which is going to be null sometimes, and that's fine. And if it is, it's going to say I'm going to add a new activity. If there's an ID, it'll hide it. I'm going to have the type, the duration, the calories burned, and then the profile that it's attached to. And I did this profile identical to how I did the user for the profile. I just did a select with an option and iterate over all the profiles. I am going to remove this tags for just a second because we're not doing tags right this second. This looks a little bit better. Again, it's absolutely the same structure. Once you do this enough times, you will make minor mistakes, exactly like what I'm doing, and it's because you've already done it. You start going too fast. That's very normal. Type, invalid property type. Did I not do my setters and getters? Activity is the one I'm doing. Did I not do a type? I did not do a type. Oh my goodness. Here we go. A type. And then I need to do the setters and getters. Whenever I added that, it would have been nice to maybe show you the database, but the database would have added that column into the database for me. So I wouldn't have had to worry about it. And then I get to select which profile. And there we go. Again, I haven't set up the edit or delete. We'll do that. It'll just take 2 seconds. But I can add activities. Doesn't matter who I attach them to. Again, with the edit and delete, these are same thing over and over again. Close all the tabs, profile with the activity, with the profile, the edit and delete. I'm just going to grab these two. I'm going to put them at the bottom here. Edit with the ID. This is editing an activity. The activity is going to have an ID. And then remember, the edit has to match the new here. So really, I'm just going to pull this down. And instead of a new activity, I'm going to go do the activity repository dot get reference by ID with the ID. And I'm going to throw in all the profiles so I can select them to then save on the activity. And then the delete is delete activity. Activity repository. Redirect activity. Activities. It's this one. But I know I'm going super fast through this. I just want to make a side comment. Some of you that were wondering, why do we do this like abstract model stuff? And like, why is Java even a thing? This right here is why. Do you see how fast I can move once I set up my models? I just change like one little thing and then I'm reusing code every single time. So that's the power of like object-oriented programming. And then it creates objects, it creates controllers, it creates templates. And then you're just trying to find how can I modify those and use the same code. I mean, I figured out a way that I can use the same form for both my create and edit. As an entry-level person, you're not expected to be able to do that just on your own without any help. On the other hand, it isn't out of your reach to do it. It's just oftentimes you have so many things to think about, so it's easy to compartmentalize and section things off. once you get used to Java, that's not how it works. You're thinking, how can I reuse code and reproduce things and just make one little edit here so I don't have to recreate the whole project. So but just reading the comments, questions to see if there's anything I needed to address. I didn't see any major errors there. Activities, my activities are still here. I can delete now. I can save bad information because I have not done the whatever, but let's say I wanted to go back in. And now I can edit. It edited the same one. And you see how I'm just copying and pasting for each of these things. That's all I'm doing. We got one more tags. We have not set that up yet. So let's go back to our code real quick. I don't think we even set up tag controller yet. Nope. New Java class, tag controller. This is a controller. This is a request mapping. I want to make mine the same as my cheat sheet over here. Now, the one thing that we did not do earlier is tie the tags to activities. I'm going to go back in and add that piece. So I will come back to that. But let's just set up being able to create tags. So the tag repository, obviously, because we need to do CRUD operations on our tag stuff. This is the generic get all tags and make a new tag. This is what we've done before. So this should be able to list all of our tags and we should be able to create a new one. But then we need to actually save it into the database. So then we have something like this. And again, these should look all the same. I'm taking a tag repository, .save, redirecting to the tags. Right. Again, let's do the new folder, tag. Again, I'm going to do my little cheat sheet. In my tag form, edit some things. Because we do have activities, if it's activities in here, we can do that. But to be honest, all I'm doing is I'm creating a form that's allowing me to put a name in. And that's all and then submitting it. That's all I'm doing here. And again, this error one is if I did error handling, this is what I was doing because I did do that in my other project that I'm not going to go over that tonight. But that's all this is here is the same exact thing. I just create a form that I put in my stuff and I have a submit button. And then in the list, I just create a table. I create a table. And for this, the table just needs the ID and the name, and that's it. And then just like the other ones, I have an edit and delete. I do have one other form here. I'm going to comment this out for a second, but I'll talk to you what that is after I get this normal blueprint, like just normal stuff down. So my controllers, I should be able to add and save right now with tags. It's coming. There we go. Add new tag. That's not good. Nate, did I really not set up the tag thing either? I did not. Private string. How did I skip over the name of a tag? generate setters and getters for my name now. Now let's rerun this. Yeah, the errors was wrapped in a small. It just makes it smaller. It's like a paragraph, but smaller. Add new tag. I'm going to add that. Again, I haven't had the edit and the delete because that's the next step. I know I'm going super fast through this, but hopefully you guys are also seeing the steps that I'm taking, because I think that's really the other thing is I don't do the create, read, update, and delete all at the same time without testing some of it first. I can't stress enough that once you get to a point where you can test something, you need to do it. The only reason I had to wait for the create to test the read is because I didn't want to manually go in my SQL and put the information in the database. So it was easier for me to do the create. But then if I do the create, I don't know if it's in. Well, I guess I could check the database if it's in there. So you could do the create and then check your database. I didn't want to have to do that. I wanted to be able to read it. So I did the create and the read at the same time because now I see it. So hopefully you guys are taking those steps as well. Yeah, the testing is the most important part. You have to test as you go. You don't just throw code in without testing it along the way. But again, I know I'm copying and pasting a little bit, but it literally is the same exact thing. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the edit and the delete code just to make sure that we're good. It's edit with ID, the ID and the model, the tag repository. I'm just getting the tag. Because I'm not tying the tag to an activity or tying the tag to a profile or anything, I don't have to throw any other attribute in, but with those other ones I did. Same thing with the delete. I just need the ID to delete it and redirect it. So now I should have the edit and the delete working just like the other ones. So right. So I'm able to edit. Ooh, delete does not like it. Delete does not like it. Delete. Oh, did I name that? No. That's not. That was weird. Oh, let's go back to the form. Not form, the list. I bet you I know what it is. Maybe not. Post and get. Is that the same as on my edit thing? Post and get? Tag. Oh, get. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. This should be post. Did you see how whenever I typed it in, it worked, but whenever I hit the button, it didn't work. So I knew something was weird there. And it's because in my template, in my HTML, I said, use the post method here. The reason I like the post method especially for deleting, I don't know if you remember, the browser by default uses the get method. So we're going to talk about REST calls in a week or so. The browser uses get. Forms and buttons can use post, but you cannot type into the URL here and it do post. Every single time you type into the URL, it has to do a get. So that's why whenever I do like delete 2, now that I switched it to post, it won't let me do it. If I said delete 1, because that's the ID of 1, oh, it did do it. That's not good. My browser's not very secure. Did I restart this maybe? I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. Hold on. That's probably what it is. All right. So now, when I delete this, there's no error. Good. But then now, whenever I go here and I say, hey, I want to delete ID 3, it gives me an error because it doesn't have a get method that maps to that URL. It's a post method, and I cannot use post up here. So now I have fixed it. Okay. Now, the interesting things. Two things I want to do. First thing is with activities, whenever I either add or edit, I want to be able to select my tags down here, not just my profile, but my tags. But since I didn't even know what a tag was earlier, I need to go back and add that. So let's go back to my, my activity form. And I think I just commented it out. Yeah, right here. I'm doing the same thing. This says for each profile, be able to select a profile. This says for each tag, select a tag. So I'm doing the same thing there. Now it's going to let me do this. But what I didn't do, I think, was on the list, it doesn't have tags on here. And to be honest, I didn't put tags on here. I forgot to. The problem is I'd have to iterate over them. I'm not going to do tags right this second. I'm going to run out of time. But you should be able to add tags. I will throw that into a little code snippet later and do the tags. So now whenever I do, I need to restart. I think you saw me kind of refactor as I went a little bit, but well, this is the disadvantage for you guys seeing me do it. I've already went through all of the steps, so you guys are seeing a more condensed lineup of what to do. Even when I was creating this myself, I took a little couple different detours to then get back here. For instance, the first time I really did do a create form and an edit form. And I was like, as I was doing the edit form, I was like, this is too much work. So then I tried to figure out how to do a create form, do it with the create form. So if you guys were doing it, just know that that's the kind of stuff that happens. Do you see how the tags are here now? Oh, but I didn't throw the tags in. It now allows me to select the tags, but it doesn't actually throw the tags in there. So now I need to go to my controller. And throw my tags in there. So whenever I edit, oh, did I import that? How did that? Did I already have that in there? I can't remember. But anyway, I need the tag repository to get all the tags. But because I did it on this one, remember my create and my edit are identical. So on my create, I also need to throw in this tags. So let me rerun this again. Okay, so now I have tags. And what's cool here is I can actually, if I hold shift, I can actually select both of them. For a profile, it only lets me select one. But I can select both of these. And then, so the running was both good and bad, but the swimming was just good. Now what I want to do is on my tags, I want to be able to see all of the activities that have the bad tag. So to do that, I'm going to create an extra button over here that allows me to see all of the activities that are associated with a tag. So to do that, the first thing I need to do is in my tags list, there's an extra button right here. This button says, hey, in my tags, if I pass in an ID and go to this activities endpoint. So this endpoint I have not created yet. When I go here, what I want this to do is grab all the activities for this ID. So I got to code that. That's going to be in my tag controller. And in my tag controller, I'm gonna, because this isn't a copy and paste, I will type this out individually. So remember the URL that I said to do was an ID. I'm passing in the ID, and then I'm saying, hey, go to the activities of that ID. Public string, because everything in time leads to string. I'm going to say get activities by tag. I'm going to do the @path variable ID. And then because I am going to model. Fat fingers tonight. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is I want to look up the tag that I care about. So I'm going to say, hey, get the tag. And remember, I'm doing this get reference by ID. You guys can use this. I wouldn't be opposed to it. Just know if you get errors, it does look weirder whenever you get errors than you normally are. I'm going to grab a list. I technically could do a set, I guess, but I'm going to get a list of activities. Activities. And I think I showed this last time, but there's an activity repository, and I need to create some method here that actually goes and gets all of the activities given a tag. So even though I have not showed that I've created, I haven't created it yet. But it's this find by tags contains and tags. This does have to be titled exactly like this. This is a Spring JPA pattern. And if I say find by, if you've noticed, most of these are find by. And then if you say a column name and then tags equals, that means it'd have to equal it. If it just contains it, it can also contain it. And then IntelliJ's smart enough that if I hit this button here, it's just going to create it for me right there. And now it works. It's there. So this returns all the activities. I already have a form that lists all the activities. So that's what I want to call. I want to call the, I want to return this, the activity list. That's what because I can list all the activities. So if I go to the activity controller, and remember the list is this one. So for the list, it needs a list of activities. That's all it needs is a list of activities. So that should be pretty easy. I can just do model, add attribute, activities. And then instead of finding all the activities, I'm going to pass in the activities that I just found that contained the tag. Now, the other thing that I did in my activity list, because I already knew I was doing this, I did do a thif. right here, a th if. I didn't show you this otherwise, but right here it says th if there's no tag that is getting passed in, which we haven't passed it in before, skip this and then do the unless. The unless means if it's null, do this unless, and so it's the opposite of the if statement. So it's just been saying, it's more or less an else, yeah. You do have to put in the exact same thing. I don't know if you saw the code here is exactly the same. So if I pass in a tag, I'm just going to change the title to say, hey, the activities for this tag. Else, I'm just going to say activities. I think that's the only place that I actually pass in the tag. So don't worry too much about how else I'm passing that in. But I am going to pass in the tag. Now let's rerun this. And remember, this is getting called on my tag list. On my tag list, I have a new button that says View Activities. And I'm calling this tag ID activities endpoint, which then calls this tag is this controller. That's what I mapped way up here, is everything has tags in front of it. And tags-id/activities calls this controller, which grabs the ID, it builds a model, it grabs the tag from the ID. I created this super fancy Spring Magic method here that grabs all the activities from the tag that contains this tag. I pass in the activities and tag into this activity form. That's a lot of talking. Okay, so if I go to tags, I now have this new blue button here. It says View Activities. So remember, the bad would be running, and then the good one should be both of them, because that's the tags. The only thing I forgot to do on here, but I am going to kind of cut it off. I do want to, and I will before I send you the code, I need to add the tags into this activity list. So I am going to do that. I'm going to write that down right now. Okay. And then the other thing that you'll see on Monday, so I'll re-show this project on Monday. And the other thing I'm going to show you is how to bring in authorization. Whatever they teach you in authorization, I'm going to add it to this. So hopefully I'll have like a login button or something for you, and you can log in. I got a couple miles in this morning. Good. I absolutely am going to push this code up. To be honest, it will not be tonight because I'm already late for my rehearsal. So I'm going to head out of here.